Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It is Wacky and Weird Wednesday, and we have, mostly from my side, a lot of weird news, maybe a little bit wacky, but of course we've got a bunch of it because we're always finding that weird stuff that's going on in the world and we just don't know why. People are people and humans are weird. Normality is a deception. Let's go ahead and go on with our headlines. Today on Before Coffee. Railfan buys a train for £1 to save it from the scrapyard.
In the Los Angeles Slingshot Bandit is identified as an 81-year-old man, and a Michigan woman is found living in a sign.
Venezuela revokes invitation for European Union mission to observe presidential election in July, and Japan sends a satellite made out of wood to space.
And we have Mummies' arms falling off in Mexico, and we have a woman who won the lottery using the fortune cookie numbers.
Coming out of the world of tabloids, News of the World paid women to sleep with celebrities. James Blunt admits.
Those stories and more, which is National Flip-Flop Day. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. National Flip-Flop Day. May 29th, 2024 on Before Coffee.
Wacky and weird indeed. I am actually wearing flip-flops right now, so
Ooh.
I did it. I did a day.
Right
I'm
on.
celebrating the National Day of Flip-Flops. Okay, let's go with our first story, which is coming out of Libération, a French paper, or a French site, I guess. Nobody makes paper anymore, do they? And they were reporting on the first Japanese wooden satellite to orbit our planet. To combat increase in space debris, scientists at Kyoto University have developed a wooden satellite which is supposed to burn up on contact with the atmosphere when it returns Earth. Which was reported on Tuesday, May 28th. Could wood be the solution to combating space pollution? The very first satellite built in this material should take off aboard a SpaceX rocket in September. The Japanese researcher who achieved this world first announced on Tuesday, May 28th. The cubic experimental satellite, which is probably the size of like a jewelry box, was developed by scientists from Kyoto University forestry company Sumitomo Forestry and measures 10 centimeters on a side. When the device returns to Earth, its creators expect the wood will burn completely on contact with the atmosphere, which will avoid the formation of metal debris, which dangerously increase the risk of collisions. Satellites that are made of metal should be favored, or not made of metal should be favored, argued Takao Doi, astronaut and special professor at Kyoto University, at a press conference on May 27th. May 28th, developers plan to hand over this satellite called LingoSat, made from Mongolia wood, to the Japanese space agency JAXA in early June. It will then be sent to space aboard a SpaceX rocket from the Kennedy Space Center in September, bound for International Space Station ISS. To test its strength and durability in space, the data will be sent from the satellite to researchers who will be able to check for signs of stress and whether it can withstand enormous temperature changes, said Sumitomo Forestry spokesperson. On the 28th, a rocket carrying another satellite, a collaboration between the European Space Agency JAXA, blasted up from California on a mission to study the role clouds play in combating climate change. The satellite, named EarthCare, will be in orbit nearly 400 kilometers above Earth for 3 years. I thought we already knew this, but I guess I just want to see live actual footage of this, but clouds definitely do block the sun. So they definitely help with climate change just a little bit, if it's not a lot. But I guess they wanted more physical proof, because you never can have enough proof when it comes to science. Then let's talk about trains. This is from Stephen Smith, who on Wales Online. A rail enthusiast has realized his boyhood dream after buying a 1970s commuter train for £1. Why there was still one lying around? Who knows? To save it from the scrap heap, Robert Hampton, 41, felt like he had to own his own massive Hornby locomotive after agreeing to take charge of the 3-coach Merseyrail train in September. The IT consultant had fond childhood memories of the network, which he used for trips to the sea and days out with friends across the city. So when he heard the news that the new state-of-the-art trains were destined to put the 46-year-old Class 507s out of service, he took steps to preserve the Scouse icon. Robert negotiated with owners, Angel Trains, to purchase one of the vehicles that Queen Elizabeth traveled on when she opened the network back in October 1978. But the Preservation Society he founded now needs to raise 10,000 more pounds to move roughly 180 feet or 55-meter long train to a heritage railway by road. See, there's the catch. Yeah, you can have this train for £1. Good luck getting it out of the station. Robert from Liverpool said, "It does feel like I've got my own massive Hornby train in a way. I think it will quite sink in until I'm standing there at the Heritage Railway and it's actually rolled off the back of the lorry into the track again. Since I was a little kid, I've always been interested in trains. Rides on them have always been fascinated how they work and things like that. So to actually get to this point where we have everything in place is very satisfying. Been quite a journey and hopefully we're near the end of it." Robert said his fascination for rail began as far back as his early childhood when he would watch Thomas the Tank Engine on TV, but as he got older, his interest spread into history and the workings of different locomotives, preserving his particular affinity for his local Merseyrail trains. He founded the Class 507 Preservation Society after it was announced that the old trains would be replaced with new Class 777 engines 4 years ago. And after a bit of persuading, Angel Trains agreed to sell him one of the old models. He said, "I'd spent quite a few years hoping that someone would get one and preserve one for the future. Sort of thought no one else was going to do anything, and maybe it's time for me to step up. I approached Angel Trains, who are the owners. I took it, and it took maybe a little bit of convincing that I was serious. Once I assured them we have a plan and the train would be in good hands, they were actually very helpful. They're very kind and keen to see one preserved as well. Otherwise, they are all going to the Scrapyard." But they didn't help. We weren't helpful enough to actually get you a system to get the train out of there. Robert said that Tennant Valley Light Railway in Nantmar, Shropshire, had agreed to house the train once it came out of service in September. They had already begun helping to prepare the track where the train will be preserved for future generations. Well, he's building the track all by himself. He said, "It's like Hornby train set writ large. I'll happily mess around with putting track pieces together that size for models. When you suddenly get the full-size one, and you're carrying on an actual length of rail that weigh quite a lot, it's a different story entirely. It's been fun, and it's been a big learning curve, yeah. Building a railway is not a one-man job. I mean, it is. You have all the time in the world." Robert said the train his society has chosen was of specific historical importance due to its royal connections. He said it was one of the first of its type in service back in October 1978. Queen Elizabeth II visited. She did the official opening ceremony of the Merseyrail network, which is the system on which the trains run, and she actually traveled on this train. That's why we're quite excited that we've been able to get this piece of Merseyrail history and keep it. Robert said he and the society would now need to find the funds to bring the train to its final resting place by road. He added, "It's a specialist job. It has to go on an 18-wheel lorry that can carry it. That's where the expense comes in, and that's where we're trying to raise money." Go ahead and visit the Society's website, which, if I will, is called class507.org.uk/donate. If you would like to help him with his dream of preserving the 507 train that Queen Elizabeth rode in when they first opened the line back in 1978. So if you're a train lover out there, I love trains, mostly riding on them because I just think it's really interesting perspective on traveling. But if you want to donate, every little bit counts, getting to that 10,000 pound goal of moving the train to his own train yard. So it's also, I guess, a little bit of positive news, but also wacky that he's like, I'm just gonna buy a train and park it in my backyard. It's gonna be fine.
Some big kid.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we sending it on to me? Huh?
That's
all right.
You're good
okay,
to go.
I didn't get it. All right. Well, we got a couple short stories here. This is from the San Gabriel Tribune in Los Angeles, basically. 81-year-old slingshot shooter who terrorized Azusa residents for years is arrested, police say. An 81-year-old man was arrested this week on suspicions of terrorizing a residential neighborhood for years with an unusual weapon, a slingshot. Prince Raymond King of Azusa, Prince, that's his first name, not Prince-like, was arrested after police served a search warrant on his home in a 900 block of North Enid Avenue on Thursday, May 23rd, and found the slingshot and ball bearings, Azusa police said in a news release. How many ball bearings King had inside the home was not provided. Officers learned over a lengthy investigation that dozens of people were victimized for about a decade by a serial slingshot shooter who broke windows, windshields, and almost hit people with his ammo. No injuries were reported, Azusa Police Lieutenant Jake Bushy said. Bushy said officers began investigating when the first incident occurred. It's been ongoing for many years because we just didn't identify who the suspect was, Bushy said. Bushy on Saturday said he wasn't sure how King was identified, but detectives learned that most of the ball bearings were shot from his backyard, with others launched from a nearby neighborhood. Why King allegedly vandalized property and nearly hit his neighbors was unknown. We're not aware of any kind of motive other than just malicious mischief, Bushy said, adding that the shots were not random. He said he did not know why certain properties or people were targeted. King was booked into jail on no bail, according to inmate records. He was scheduled to appear in court on Tuesday.
Serial slingshotter.
Yep, and an octogenarian, it turns out, which, I don't know what you do. Just fine him and take away his slingshots, I guess. And we have another weird story. Here's a woman found living. This is AP News. Woman found living in Michigan store sign that told police it was a little-known safe spot. Midland, Michigan. A woman who was living inside a sign on the roof of a Michigan grocery store told police it was an old safe spot known to her family, though she didn't explain why she chose to stay there for a year, according to a video of the encounter. 34-year-old woman, whose name hasn't been released, was very concerned about her possessions, as police officers said she would have to immediately leave the attic-like space inside the Family Fair sign in Midland, 130 miles north of Detroit. The Associated Press and other news media recently reported the April 23rd discovery. Police body cam video subsequently obtained by mlive.com under public records request is sent, and portions were posted online Tuesday. Believe it or not, you've got a nickname, an officer said, noting that some people apparently knew about her. Spider-Man or something, the woman replied. No, Roof Ninja, he said, referring to the stealthy warrior. Tell me that ain't cool. That's true, she said. Police were called to the store. Police were called to the store when contractors working on the roof followed an extension cord to the hideaway. The woman was inside when two officers asked her to open the small door in the back of the sign. Did somebody turn you on to this? One said. The woman said it was an old safe spot, little known to most people in Midland, but not anymore. The woman had a coffee maker, a computer, bedding, and a phone. Another officer said the makeshift housing was impressive and then wondered how she had survived the winter. I know how to deal with that. I've been in Alaska, the woman replied. She asked for time to call her employer and get a truck to put her belongings in storage. The officer said no, making clear that the store staff would remove the possessions and return them to her. The woman emerged in black clothing and ski goggles perched on her head. She said she was sensitive to sunlight. She asked the officers how they got on the roof. Ladder, one said. We're not a roof ninja. Anyway, There's your fun little story of a lady who's not necessarily homeless, just likes living in weird places, which is kind of a trend in the United States. Camping just in strange places. I watch videos on it all the time. There's a guy that goes and camps in roundabouts. He goes and camps, like this lady. He camps behind, those billboard signs. Or the woods behind your house for all you know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of this, but whatever. It's kind of a recreation. Mm-hmm. People don't even do it because they have to. They do it for fun.
Sounds really interesting.
Anyway, right. I'd live in a sign for a month. What the hell? Kind of would do that.
I mean, the only problem people really have with it is our abject hatred. I say our, but society's abject hatred of people who are homeless. So they just, ew, gross. They don't have a house, without ever asking, maybe that person is just a hobbyist who likes sleeping behind signs.
Right,
and maybe you shouldn't treat them like some sort of gross thing you stepped on with your shoe whenever you see them. People watch
too much dramatic television.
Yeah.
That's what the problem is. They think television is real life.
This could happen to me. The likelihood of that happening to you is almost zero. But,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we all gotta be extra careful because reasons. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, the world isn't law and order. Speaking of law and order, Venezuela revoked an invitation for the European Union to observe the presidential election that's happening this July. This is from AP News by Regina Garcia Cano. Coming out of Venezuela, the electoral authority on May 28th revoked an invitation for a European Union mission to observe the country's upcoming presidential election, in which President Nicolas Maduro is seeking re-election. The head of the National Electoral Council, Elvis Amoroso, cited economic sanctions imposed by the 27-nation bloc as the reason for withdrawing the invitation. The EU had not yet accepted the invite that was extended earlier this year. Wait, so they invited them to come see their election, and then they hadn't replied, so they said, you know what? Revoked. You're not invited anymore. Okay. Weird politics stuff. Amoroso said on the 28th of May, decision is intended to show that EU's representatives are not welcome here, to come here to our country while the genocidal sanctions against the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela and especially in its government are maintained. The bloc, however, only maintains sanctions against more than 50 Venezuelans accused of acts of repression or efforts to undermine democracy, but not against the government as a whole. Well, maybe it's because 50 of those people are all the people in the government. That would be weird, wouldn't it? The announcement came 2 weeks after the EU temporarily lifted sanctions against 4 officials linked to the electoral body, including Amoroso, in recognition of the steps taken ahead of the July 28th election. But the relief was vehemently rejected by Venezuela's government and Amoroso, who argued it was selective and insufficient. The EU statement called on the National Electoral Council to reconsider its decision. The Venezuela people should be able to choose their next president in credible, transparent, and competitive elections, supported by international observations, including that of the European Union, which has a long and distinguished record of independent and impartial observation, said the statement posted on Twitter. Venezuela's electoral body earlier this year set the presidential election for July 28th and extended invitations to various organizations to observe the contest. Those decisions fulfilled some of the provisions of an agreement signed last year between Maduro's government and the US-backed Unitary Platform Opposition Coalition. Under the agreement signed in the Caribbean island of Barbados, both sides vowed to work toward improving conditions for a free and fair election. Still, Venezuela's government continuously tests the limits of the accord by, among other actions, blocking the candidacy of the president's chief opponent, Maria Corina Machado. That's convenient. Machado, a former lawmaker, won the coalition's October presidential primary with more than 90% of support. The country's top court in January affirmed an administrative decision blocking her candidacy. Her chosen substitute was barred from the ballot too. Wow, this great democracy going on in Venezuela. Machado and the coalition are now backing former diplomat Edmundo Gonzalez Urrutia. The U.S. granted Venezuela's government relief from economic sanctions after the agreement was signed in Barbados, but has since clawed back as hopes for a democratic opening fade. In 2021, the EU accepted the invitation of Venezuela officials to send a mission to observe the regional elections that included gubernatorial? I don't know. Gubernatorial. That doesn't seem like a word. Gubernatorial and mayoral elections. What is a gubernatorial? Is that a real word? Sorry. It's wacky and weird word. Gubernatorial. Governor. Okay, governor. It's another word for governor. Why didn't they just say
gubernatorial? Yeah, that's one of them.
I've never seen that word in my life. They're just
really?
Like,
wow.
yo,
welcome to politics.
Weird and wacky word of the day.
Gubernatorial. Gubernatorial.
Gubernatorial.
Sorry, man.
There you go. You learned a new word today.
Yeah.
All to do with the governor. And just relating to governor. So it's a word relating to
That's
governor.
right. Gubernatorial. Yep, yeah. That's a tough one. That's been around for a while. You think they're saying gubernatorial, right?
I studied law and politics.
And there's a B in it.
Yeah.
It's like somebody illiterate thought of that word, right?
Yeah, it's like.
Did you say goober?
Are you sure it's not governor? No, it's definitely goober. Okay. The mission concluded that the contest happened under better conditions compared to the country's elections in recent years, but was marred by the use of public funds to benefit pro-government candidates. Oh, I'm going to take this tax money so I can put out more commercials. Election anomalies cited by the mission include delays in opening and closing voting centers, disproportionately favorable coverage for the ruling party on state television, probably because they're using those public funds, and the use of free food and other goods as political tools, among other. Hey, we're having a cookout, and if you vote for us, you get an extra rib. There's your weird and wacky news coming out of Venezuela of them totally trying to get back to democracy by revoking every handout they're given. On to your story.
Okay. Well, we got a couple of quick stories. You ever play those numbers on your fortune cookie? You know, those are your lucky numbers. Well, there's a lady that plays them all the time, and she won.
Wow.
Real quick story. This is from UPI.com. Fortune cookie numbers earned Virginia woman $50,000 Powerball prize. Tierra Barley won a $50,000 Powerball prize using a set of numbers she copied from a fortune cookie. Tierra Bailey told the Virginia law officials she always uses the set of numbers she copied from the slip of paper inside a fortune cookie when she plays Powerball. She bought the ticket bearing those numbers from the Varina Superstore supermarket on Darbytown Road in Henrico and scored a $50,000 prize when she matched the 5 numbers. Barley said her good luck almost turned sour when she left the ticket behind at the store and she left to take her daughter to the park. The player said she returned to the store and was able to retrieve her ticket with the help from another customer. Wow, that's crazy, right? Of course, later, she also met a tall, dark stranger and made a decision that affected the rest of her life. So all of that fortune cookie came true in that one day. And that's your weird news from the lottery. And we're going to go to Mexico for some anthropology news. Mexican government, this is from AP News. Mexican government says the arm of a 19th century mummy came off after mishandling by museum staff. Mexico City. Mexico's Federal Archaeology... Oh, I can't read now. Mexico's Federal Archaeology Agency on Monday accused the conservative governed city of Guanajuato of mistreating one of the country's famous mummified 19th century bodies. The National Institute of Anthropology and History, the INAH, said that during recent renovations at the museum where the mummified bodies are on permanent display, the arm of the mummies came off. One might think that the complaint is all about the dignified treatment of corpses buried around the 1800s and dug up starting in the 1860s because their families could no longer pay burial fees. But in fact, the mummies have been on a somewhat grisly display in glass cases in a museum in Guanajuato, the capital of the state of the same name, and toted around to tourism fairs for decades. Some were exhibited in the United States in the 2009. What appears to be at the root of the latest dispute is a turf battle between the INAH, which believes it has jurisdiction over the mummies because it says they are national patrimony, and Guanajuato, which considers them to be a tourist attraction. The state and the city are governed by the Conservative National Action Party, which the Morena Party, which holds power at the federal level, considers its arch enemy. Maybe you ought to just try to get along with each other. You live in the same country. Stop having enemies. Jesus. On Monday, the Institute said it would demand an accounting of what permits and procedures were followed during the museum renovations. These events confirmed that the way the museum's collection was moved is not the correct one, and that far from applying proper corrective and conservation strategies, the actions carried out resulted in damage not only to this body, the Institute wrote in a statement. It did not say what, if any, other bits of mummies had fallen off. It appears that the situation is related to a lack of knowledge about proper protocols and lack of training of the personnel in charge of carrying out these tasks. It continued. The Guanajuato city government did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The preserved corpses were unintentionally mummified when they were buried in crypts in dry, mineral-rich soil environment in the mining state of Guanajuato. Some still have hair, leathery skin, and the original clothing. The Institute appeared to be miffed because personnel in Guanajuato, not the Institute's own staff, is in charge of approximately 100 mummies. In part, they were mostly dug up before the Institute was founded in 1939. They remain under local control, something that has rankled federal officials in the past. In 2023, experts from the Institute complained that the traveling display of mummies could pose a health risk to the public because one of the mummies appeared to have fungal growths. It is not the first time an extremely long dead person becomes a national political issue. In 1989, the Mexican government weathered a wave of criticism after it removed the arm of a revolutionary general, Alvaro Obregón, severed in the Battle of 1915 after being displayed in a jar of formaldehyde in a marble monument for half a century. Visitors said it had become unsightly, and so the arm was incinerated and buried. In 1838, Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, who served as the president of Mexico 11 times, lost a leg in battle and had it buried with honors. By 1844, an angry crowd that accused him of treason dragged the leg through the streets of Mexico and apparently destroyed it. Wow. Get a hobby. Well, there's your history of mummies in Mexico. The unintentional alliteration of that. But anyway, mummies in Mexico on Weird Wednesday. There we go. We have a theme.
Does money
Mummies in
flow
Mexico,
in?
Weird Wednesday. Alliteration plays on Wednesdays.
Alliteration, money in Mexico. Okay.
Mummies, not money.
Oh, sorry.
Mummies.
Money, but you did talk about money earlier. You did talk about
not
money
monies.
earlier.
Mummies.
As well. Okay.
Right.
Let's go ahead and go to our culture segment, which is James Blunt admitting that women are sleeping with celebrities and paid by News of the World tabloid in order to remark on their sexual performance. Why he's telling us, I don't know, but I guess it's bad, most likely. This is from The Guardian by Lucy Knight. James Blunt claims the News of the World paid women to sleep with celebrities in order to get stories about their sexual performance. The singer, who settled his legal action against News International in 2012, said the police had sent him emails from the News of the World which showed that two beautiful women were on the payroll of now closed tabloid to go out and shag celebrities. Speaking on the Hay Literary Festival in Powys, Blunt was asked about discovering the emails. which he described in his book loosely based on a made-up story, a non-memoir. 2 women were on the news of Wales payroll to go out and fuck celebrities, Blunt wrote in the book. The girls would bring the men back to a studio flat in Notting Hill, which had a full-down bed, film the encounter, and then hand it over to the paper. The girls were hot, and I met them. And sure enough, I'd done the deed. He straight up admits that he met some women and didn't even question them filming them having sex. That's a memoir for a reason. You just admit the stuff that you've never talked about before. The singer said he had been shocked to read internal emails from Andy Coulson, the then editor of News of the World, who later went to jail for phone hacking. Coulson was discussing how best to portray my orgasm and concluded, I think he'd sing it. What is wrong with people? This is why this is my weird news segment. I'm told the hate audience, it's just really weird that people are like, you know what's a great idea? Let's hire some hot chicks to sleep with celebrities. It's gonna make us billions! Blunt told the hate audience about his friendship with actor Carrie Fisher and said she had really been mistreating her body.
The oldest blackmail
she died in 2016, partly because of Star Wars bosses putting pressure on her to be thin. Blunt and Fisher met in the 2000s through a woman Blunt was dating at the time. And the Star Wars actor offered him the opportunity to live with her when he moved to LA. While he was living in her home, he recorded his first album, Back to Bedlam. Blunt has previously said Fisher's daughter, the actor Billy Lord, blamed him for her death, as he was there with her the night before she found an unresponsive on a flight to London to Los Angeles. Fisher died days later with a toxicology report finding she had cocaine, heroin, MDMA, and methadone in her system. And obviously Blunt just forced it into her body. Blunt told the audience at Hay that before... I'm gonna sneeze. I'm not gonna sneeze. I hate that when you get the feeling to sneeze and then nothing happens. Okay. Blunt told the audience at Hay that before Fisher's death, she had been using drugs. She just got the job of being Princess Leia in the new Star Wars movie, so she was really on a high and positive. But they had applied a lot of pressure on her to be thin. She spoke about the difficulties that women have in the industry. Women are allowed to grow old, and women are certainly not in film and TV. She really put a lot of pressure on herself, started using drugs again, and by the time she got on the plane, she had effectively killed herself, he said. Rian Johnson, who directed the 2017 film Star Wars The Last Jedi, has been contacted for comment, and so has Lucasfilm, News UK, and Andy Coulson. All the people involved in this story. Andy Coulson, did you really hire hot chicks to sleep with people? According to this email, you did. I feel like I know that name from somewhere. But I guess... Yeah, I guess I don't. Maybe he was just in the news for the stuff where he got...
It's a blackmail scam. It's the old blackmail scam. You set up a guy with a prostitute, take pictures, and blackmail him. You do it to politicians, actors.
What they'll do for some cash, you know? You're famous.
Or plant drugs on them.
Get blackmailed, asshole. How dare you become a celebrity out of your own luck, really. So... Now, the last time this Coulson guy was in the news was 2016, so he's not really, up in there when it comes to the news, but he was hired as the Telegraph's PR advisor, which the Telegraph itself is kind of a tabloid, so...
Oh, yeah, the Rupert Murdoch and his company.
Yeah. That's my story. Short and sweet. About weird blackmailing, prostituting women to blackmail celebrities, I guess. Nothing's new under the sun, as somebody said.
On this day in history, in 1453, Constantinople, which is modern-day Istanbul, and the Byzantine Empire fell to the Ottomans, defeated by a series of footstools. It's very embarrassing. 1658, the Battle of Samargarh was fought in the contest for the throne between the sons of the Mughal Empire's Shah Jahan following the emperor's serious illness in 1657. And this day in 1736, orator Patrick Henry Give me liberty or give me death. That guy, a major figure for the American Revolution, was born in Studley, Virginia. Studley, Virginia. And this day in 1848, Wisconsin became the 30th state of the Union. And the United States said, thank you, we finally got Wisconsin, we're complete. 1860, composer and virtuoso pianist Isaac Ibanez was born in Camprodon, Spain. In 1905, in this day, the Russian Navy was defeated in the Battle of Tsushima during the Russo-Japanese War. In 1942, American singer and actor Bing Crosby recorded the holiday classic White Christmas, which became one of the best-selling singles of all time. He recorded White Christmas in May. When did he release it? I bet you released it around Christmas time, no? It was World War II,
you gotta get that hype train up for the Christmas music, you gotta start early.
Well, yeah, especially since you're on war and the people listening to it are all at war, right? Listening to it on their little radio or whatever, armed forces radio, going, oh, I wish it was home for Christmas. And it sold, it was, I believe, the first million selling record. I'm not sure. 1999, Discovery became the first space shuttle to dock with the International Space Station, and they had a long, healthy relationship and many children. 2017, the day Panamanian leader Manuel Noriega, who ruled Panama until ousted by the U.S. forces in 1989, well, he died in 2017 at the age of 83. Of course, we propped Noriega up as a strong man until he started doing his own thing, and then he had to go. He had to go. The CIA said, yeah. Yep, just like they did with Roland the Thompson Gunner, they said he had to go. In 1953, on this day, Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay reached the summit of Mount Everest. Following numerous failed attempts by others, these two became the first climbers to surmount Mount Everest, the highest mountain in the world, on this day in 1953. Our featured biography, JFK, John F. Kennedy's birthday, born May 29th, 1917. He would be 107 today. Died, of course, we know where he died. He died in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963.
And famously did not have
1936. I'm sorry?
I think his nephew had a worm in his brain that was eating his brain. Like that was last
week's
news.
Famously.
That's some weird news for you. JFK famously did not have a worm in his brain.
And RFK Jr., one of the world's most famous failures of relations of rich people, is gotten by on his name alone. I mean, I feel sorry for the guy. His dad was shot his dad was shot when he was a little kid, right? He feels bad for the guy. Then worms eat his brain. But you know what? There's lots of rich people that do good things with their lives in spite of having famous parents, and he's been living off I'm RFK Jr. his entire life, and he's a moron running for president now, and nobody wants him to be president. I don't even think he wants to be president. I think his brain doesn't work for the worms eating it. Yeah. But that has nothing to do with JFK. Poor JFK was dead before RFK Jr. was even born. So, on 1736, Patrick Henry, we got that birthday. Other birthdays, G.K. Chesterton, British author, born in 1874. Bob Hope's birthday today. He was born in 1903, so Bob Hope and JFK the same birthday. But Bob Hope would be 121 today. And Carmelo Anthony, American basketball player. Carmelo Anthony turns 40 today. And what day is it today? Among things it is today, it's National Paperclip Day. Excuse me. Paperclip, I see them everywhere unless I need one. And then I can't find one. National Senior Health and Fitness Day. That's me. I guess I'm a senior now. It's also National 529 Day. 529 is a savings account for tuition, I found out. That's what that is. I had to look it up. It's National 529 Day because it's 529.
I guess get your 529.
There's also an account you can set up. You can take tax-free money. I guess they've established this now. You have an account you can put tax-free money in for tuition. And it's National Flip-Flop Day. The kind that you put on your feet. They go flip, flop, every time you walk.
Mm-hmm.
Can't be just regular sandals that support your heel in the back. They got to be the noisy kind. It's National Coq au vin Day. What's a coq au vin? It's a big dish with chicken. What else is in it? It's a French. It literally means rooster with wine. Its literal translation means rooster with wine. It's a rustic, pleasant style dish that's easy to serve with entertaining because a lot of work can be done in advance. Okay, a lot of work. That sounds like something I'll never make. But yeah, Coq au vin Day. Maybe order it from the local deli. I don't know. There's your days for today. There's your days for today. May 29th, 2024 on Before Coq au vin.
Before Coq au vin. Okay, this has been Allison here from the Netherlands. I hope you're having a wacky and weird Wednesday, and if you aren't, have one on us. Tomorrow will be our Thursday 13, which is going to be 13...
Thursday comedy.
Sorry?
13 things.
13 things. It's going to be 13 things, for sure.
Find out tomorrow. Tune in. 13 countries that are losing population,
find out what
at
those
least.
13 things are. Don't forget to, if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on those notifications so we can get those numbers up. Because analytics and the algorithm, and the more you watch, the more we grow. And hope to see you tomorrow. Have a good one out there. Here's your mic drop moment.
Mr. President, on this occasion of your birthday, this lovely lady is not only punctilious, but punctual. Mr. President, Marilyn Monroe. Perhaps there has been no one female who meant so much, who has done more. Mr. President, the late Marilyn Monroe. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. President. Happy birthday to you. Thanks, Mr. President, for all the things you've done, the battles that you've won, the way you deal with U.S. Steel and our problems by the ton. We thank you so much. Everybody, happy birthday!
Thank you. I can now retire from politics after having had Happy Birthday sung to me in such a sweet, wholesome way.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.